According to Amnesty International, the United States is among the top 8 countries in the world with the most confirmed executions, and in 2019 we executed more people than Pakistan and Somalia. Good evening, my name is Avery Grove, and I'm currently pursuing my Associates in Criminal Justice. So over my years pursuing that degree, I've become familiar with the U.S. justice system and our use of the capital punishment. That is to say, I've become familiar with how flawed our use of capital punishment is, and I'm here to share some of what I learned with you and hopefully persuade you to agree with me that it should be abolished. So first we're going to go over why it shouldn't be used, and then we'll go over the alternative that already exists, but it just isn't pursued 100% of the time. And then lastly, we'll go over what you as an audience can do about it. So starting off with costs, by show of hands, can I ask who here would say that it costs more to house an inmate for the rest of their life than it would to execute them? Alright, so let the record show that two audience members agree with that statement, and well, believe it or not, it actually costs more to execute them, and this is mostly due to the long, drawn-out legal process of pursuing capital punishment. So, according to a financial analysis on behalf of Susquehanna University, that's out of Pennsylvania, they found that on average it costs around $1.12 million more to execute someone than it would to house them for the rest of their natural life. And moving on to wrongful convictions, which is what that drawn-out process is intended to prevent, but despite these efforts, around 5% or 1 in 20 death row inmates are innocent. So yeah, it's a number that's in the hundreds, which if that doesn't sound like a big deal to you, you should try being one of those people. Yeah, so the statistic that shouldn't exist, but it's largely due to human error. And speaking of human error, botched executions is another issue to consider with this. This is information coming from the Death Penalty Information Center, and it's a little over 3% of executions that go wrong in some way. And when the electric chair was a thing, there was instances where people were catching on fire or blowing up, parts of their bodies were exploding before they actually died. And when the gas chamber was a thing, it took up to 10.5 minutes for one man to die after they dropped the cyanide tablets. And then lethal injections, most common, so it's where a lot of things go wrong as well. And this can be difficulty finding a vein if the person was a drug user, or on the executioner's behalf, just issues or problems like administering the lethal injection. There's been kinks in the IV lining, and it just drip feeds poison into them, or in some instances the needle went all the way through their vein, and they're just injecting that serum into their soft tissue, and it's taken them hours to die. So if you're into retribution, you might think that it was good that they suffered, or that maybe the family of the victims found some reassurance in this or closure, but there's constitutional rights that protect a person from cruel and unusual punishment. It's the 8th Amendment, and that's exactly how I would describe these instances, as cruel and unusual. And as a matter of fact, the victims' families don't actually feel better, at least in most instances. A 2007 study from the University of Minnesota found that only 1 in 40 of the victims' families actually found closure from capital punishment being pursued. So at this point, there's no denying that there's moral and economical issues using the death penalty. So next we'll talk about the alternative, which is life without parole. It's something you've probably heard of. It's the lesser sentence just below the death penalty. And according to the National Conferences of State Legislation, it is currently the highest sentencing available in the 22 states that have already abolished the death penalty. Yeah, it allows the wrongfully convicted time to appeal without the threat of death, and it allows new evidence to be uncovered so they can be found innocent. And as for those who are truly guilty, well, in my opinion, the way I look at it is having to live with what they've done for the rest of their life is greater punishment than dying. And if you're into retribution, again, you can still look at it as the state taking their life from them, just not killing them. So, in conclusion, the death penalty is costly and it puts innocent people at risk. And the alternative, which already is in place, it just isn't pursued 100% of the time, is life without parole. So either we can allow our society to take part in this unjust, flawed, and costly system, or we can take the next step into pursuing a more civilized society, one that does not accidentally kill innocent people legally and spend millions of taxpayers' dollars in the process. I urge you to take action and help us progress into a brighter future. You can do this by educating yourself further. There's more points that I haven't made just for sake of time, and educating others. And you can write to your state representatives, because the Oregon state still has the death penalty. And you can sign petitions as well. The place to start is actionnetwork.org. And then, so for regular people like us to make a difference, it has to start at the state level. We can help get the United States off the same list as Pakistan and Somalia and China and North Korea as well. And to wrap this up, I'd like to end with a quote from a famous philosopher from the 40s. His name was Albert Camus, and he said, "Capital punishment is the most premeditated of murders." Thank you.
Thank you.